Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliette Clark, and welcome to our monthly training video. So for those of you who don't want to listen, you'd rather see the slides, please go on over to our YouTube channel, Super Brand Publishing. And at the end, stay till the end. We're going to go over all of the events we have this month because we have more than just this month, for this month. And it's going to be free. All of our trainings are free. So today's guest is Kristy Boyd Johnson, and she is an award-winning children's author and has ghostwritten over 30 books for entrepreneurs over the years. She's a sought-after developmental editor and transformational book coach, and she's recently launched Starseed Journey Retreats because she can't imagine anything better than being in a beautiful location with beautiful people who want to connect with their deepest selves through writing. So, Chris, take it away. I think we already established that your slides are working.
Yes. Thank goodness. Thank you, Juliette, and thank you for that. And welcome, everybody.
Dawn,
Dawn,
we have a question for you when this is over.
Oh, it's not
sure.
Dawn. It's not
Oh,
Dawn.
it's not that Dawn. Okay, sorry.
I'm done.
Okay. I did research on that. I found out.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm
going
to go ahead and share my screen so you can see the slides. So welcome to the pregame show. Getting ready to write your masterpiece. I've had a lot of fun figuring out this presentation. So we're going to jump right in. Today we're going to learn the myth and truth around being ready to write your book. That there's a lot around that. The biggest boo-boos that nonfiction authors make when writing their books, and a few that fiction do too. And we're going to play Ask the Editor, so you'll get a chance to play with me and ask me questions directly related to anything you're working on. And then, so that our whole goal is that you write a book that even future entrepreneurs and horses can't put down. I love that picture. So one thing to realize, you guys, is that publishing and everything comes later. You have to start with the book, and the book starts with you and your content. If you don't execute it in a way that your readers will resonate with, it's never gonna, no matter what anyone does, it's not really gonna hit the way you want it to. And everybody wants their book to hit. So I'm not going to read my bio, but I am going to tell you my writing journey has been crazy. I started in my 20s because I was teaching and I would tell the kids stories. And they liked my stories and they wanted me to tell them stories over reading them books that were on the shelves. So I stupidly decided that, I can write a children's book, and quickly found out that is, in fact, the hardest thing to write above and beyond any other thing. But the key is that you stick with it. The key is you keep learning, you talk to people who know what they're talking about, you keep reading, you keep working on it, and you grow. You can't help it. You can't help but grow and become better at what you do. So now I have the ability, I've written nonfiction, I've written fiction, I've written children's fiction, and I've written screenplays, and I've done really well. But it's also taken me 40 years. So my goal is to shorten that time down for people and help them get there faster, so they don't have to go through all the struggle and torment of learning how to write without much guidance. So let's start with what it takes to be ready. I have so many people saying to me, I'm not ready to write my book yet, or I'm getting ready to write my book. And I think there's a misconception about what readiness is. And one of them is, the book will just come to me and I'll just know, and then I'll just write it down and it'll be perfect. Sorry, but it just doesn't work that way. The idea can come to you. The focus can come to you. If it's fiction, the plot or a really wonderful character can kind of drop in and say, ooh, create a story. But it doesn't just drop in your head and then you write it down. That is a false thing to believe. So getting ready a lot of times is more about making the decision to write the book. So if you've made that decision, then you already know that you're going to write a book. You just have a block there that can be very easily cleared with a little guidance and or just a little strategy. I don't have any time is a big one. It is a tough one. That's a toughie, I admit. We all are busy. We all have families or kids or jobs or, 6,000 other things that are pulling at us at all times. But the myth here is that people think they have to sit down and write for 8 hours a day. First of all, that'll kill you. Second of all, it's not realistic. It just isn't going to happen. So what you have to shift into is that, okay, I don't have 8 hours a day, but I do have 15 minutes. I could get up 15 minutes early if you're a morning person. Or after work, if you work a regular job, maybe you spend 15 minutes just on your thing. And then it moves you forward. Baby steps do move you forward. So if you can't do a substantial, you might find along the way that you have a day where you have more time and then you start to really get into the flow. And if that happens, take advantage of it because it's a wonderful feeling to get into that zone of, oh, I'm really into it right here. And then I don't know what to write is another big myth. That's true. I'm going to put fiction aside for that one right now, but for nonfiction writers, for people who are writing books, they're writing an autobiography or a journey story, or they're writing a book related to their business to help you move forward in your business and give you more substantial resources for your business. You do know what to write. It's a matter of focusing in on a topic. If you're thinking, I don't know what to write, it's always that you have too much going on and you're spinning. It's always that. And it might feel like you're completely blank, but what's really happening is there's just too much there and you're trying to write something before you've done a little process of forgive me for saying this, getting ready, which is really prepping to write your book. Are there any questions? Does anyone want to ask a question or anything or make a comment? We're good? Okay. All right. So all of those little insidious monsters are forms of writer's block. And writer's block is when I say insidious, I do mean sneaky little devils that get in your head and whisper in your ear that you can't do something. And when it comes to writing a book, awareness of that leaps you out of it. If you just become aware and go, oh, I see what's happening here, you can then take steps to move forward in the process of getting your book done. It's all about awareness. So busting writer's block is about your plan, your focus, and one step at a time. Don't ever fall into the trap that your book has to be whole in your head and then you have to write it down. That's actually a form of writer's block. It doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't. You have to be willing to suck at the beginning. I call the first draft of every book a vomit draft because oftentimes what happens at the beginning is you have to get everything that's spinning in your head down on paper. And because if you don't have anywhere to go. It stays spinning up in your head and doesn't ever come out and get into a form that you can work with. You can only work with it when it's on paper. So we get it on paper, and if it sucks, that's great because you got a first draft and now you can do something with it. So think of that as a positive thing, you guys. It is a positive thing. So here are some of the truths. And we're going to play a game I call Ask the Editor. I love it when people talk to me because if you talk to me and you ask me questions, I guarantee you there are people out there who are thinking the exact same thing you are. And if you ask, you're going to be helping everyone who's listening. So anyone who wants to play with me, I'm ready.
I had this concept for a book that had 3 sections and they're each, for lack of a better word, meaty. Would it be better to have a trilogy or 3-part, or I don't know how you call it, or just one big book with 3 different sections?
Is it fiction or nonfiction?
I'm not sure I'm going to spin it yet.
Okay, that's a toughie because we have to know what it is, and if they're so in
So it's going to be about menopause. So what do you suggest?
Oh, okay. Probably nonfiction. To maybe fiction later. Meaty sections, word count is kind of a
Ah,
critical thing. So at the beginning, I wouldn't limit yourself. I would
okay.
just go for putting down those sections, like put in everything you're thinking should go in that section. And then when you have a draft, you're going to have a one manuscript where they're all in there, section one,
Okay.
section two, section three. Then check and see, where are we? Are we at 20, 30,000 words per section? If you are, you probably want to split them into 3 books. If you're at 10,000 per section, you probably want to keep it combined so that you have a substantial book, not a teeny tiny, unless you want to just have teeny tiny little ebooks, which is a viable thing. If that's, if you want to have little ebooks that focus in very deeply on one thing at a time. So that's a kind of a future question. But for right now, I would say write your meaty sections down and keep this information in section 1 that you want, and then 2, and then 3, and then go from there.
Okay.
That's
Thank
a
you.
good-
That brings up another question though.
Okay.
Say I started with the ebook, a small little ebook.
Mhm.
Could that then be turned into an expanded regular
Yes.
book?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. You can always expand your ideas out into larger books, separate books, a series of books, or workbooks. And you can always do that. And there's reasons for doing all those things that can help you move forward in your business.
Oh, I like
Chris,
that.
Chris, can I interject there?
Yes, please.
If you're going to do that smaller book first, make it into a lead magnet to build your audience. And that will help you with your book launch later as well, because now you're audience gathering.
Mm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can use that small ebook as a lead magnet, but use the same information and expand the manuscript later into a larger, more substantial book and sell them separately. That is totally a legitimate thing because you're
Okay.
adding. Yes. So everything starts with the mind shift. We go from I want to write a book, which is always putting it out into the future, to I am writing a book, which is putting you in the present. Right now, I'm making a decision and I'm going to write this book, which is not to say you're going to have it done tomorrow. It is a process. It is a process. But when you start the process, you're starting movements forward. Your focus, especially in nonfiction, we got to shift the focus from, oh, I know I have so much information about my topic, into, okay, I've narrowed my topic into this one book. I'm going to have this specific topic that I'm going to discuss. So at one time I worked with a chiropractor and he unloaded on me all this stuff he wanted to put in. He dealt with all these issues in people. And I was overwhelmed by just the conversation. So I explained to him, that you're killing me here. It's too much, and it's going to overwhelm your readers. Your book is going to be about, 6,000 pages. So I said, what are the top 3 complaints that people come to you with? And we narrowed it down to his top 3. And then his first book, he picked migraines. And his first book was a small book all about migraines, but he went deep into what causes them, what practical things you can do to help yourself right now. And then he chose to publish them only for use in his office. He wrote 7 with 7 different top migraines, sciatica, and a few others. And he put them out and people could self-determine which one they wanted. So someone coming in with sciatica would pick the sciatica book up and they didn't have to wade through a bunch of information that they didn't need. People love that. They want, our attention spans are short now with texts and tweets and short messages and reels and everything. And so they want to get right to the point. So that was a great marketing tool for him. And he tripled his business within a year because people were giving his books to their friends. And then they were coming into his office because he helped them. So that narrowing down the topic especially if you have a really big topic, as Donna said, it might end up being 2 books or 3 books. But the advantage to you as the author of doing that is that then you have 3 book titles under your name as author, not just 1. So that gives you even more credibility. It's a big advantage. It's a big advantage. And the last thing for readiness is planning. If you say your book is universal, everybody's going to read my book. You are fooling yourself. That is not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You have to know your audience. For example, like romance writers, that is a dominantly female audience. If you think all men are going to read your romance novel just because you wrote it, it's not going to happen. They're not. They have their personal preferences about things, both fiction and nonfiction. It's never universal. So you have to know your audience. You have to know who you're talking to and who you're working with. So in Donna's case, with a menopause book, we kind of have a built-in audience. Any woman who's in a phase of menopause, there's an audience there. It's not young women. Maybe it's not really older women, maybe after 80 or something. It's in that middle part. So, and it's women. So you get a clear audience there, clearly defined. So, and then just for fun, give yourself a working title. Never feel like your title is a cut in stone thing until it's going to the publisher. So play with the title and give it a working title so you know what you're talking about when you're talking about your book. Just kind of a little fun tool. It also helps with writer's block. Just a little tip there. All right, before we get into the big book killers, does anyone have a question or want to share something? We're good? Okay. All right. So this is pretty much, I have a little bit of that fiction in here, but mostly it's nonfiction. These are the things that typically people who do that will kill your book. So book killer number 1 is what we were just talking about. Is my book is for everyone. If you're fiction, even Stephen King has haters. Not everybody likes horror. Not everybody likes romance. Genre in fiction, genre is a very specific thing. Everybody knows what sci-fi nerds are. That's a specific genre that they're not probably going to read other stuff unless they're readers and they read everything. But for nonfiction writers, again, everyone is not interested in your topic. But the people who are interested in your topic, if you deliver, which is that's what we're talking about in this section, you're going to get fans. And fans tell their friends about you. We want that. So when you're making your decision, decide who you want to reach and then write as if you're talking to them. So if I were writing a children's book, I would not speak the way I would speak to an adult. It's not going to happen. You have to speak in kid language. And it also depends on their age. If you're talking to men, it's going to be different than if you're talking to women. It's different. So you have to have that in your head. And I do know that Juliet is very good at helping you identify an audience if you're struggling with that. So who are your readers? Just ask yourself, is it men or women predominantly? It might be a little of both, but usually there's a predominant one. Your general age group are like Donna's in the middle ages. Are they over 60? Are they 20 somethings just starting out? Are they kids? Who are you talking to? And this is a big one for nonfiction books. Are you talking to professionals in your same area of expertise? Are you a train the trainer kind of writer? If you are, you're going to have a whole different languaging system than if you're talking to people who are not in your area. I was a teacher and I was a resource teacher, meaning I worked with kids with learning differences. And the resource trainer, she was this top, knew everything person. And she asked me to help her write a book. And she had 3 distinct audiences she could talk to. She could talk to resource teachers who would know what she was talking about. She could talk to regular classroom teachers who wouldn't know a lot of what she was talking about, but needed to try to understand if they had kids in their classroom that needed extra attention. Or she could talk to parents who wouldn't really have a grasp on it. She had to choose a clearly defined audience for her book because otherwise it would fail. So her language really made a difference. You have to ask yourself what they want. What do they want? Do they want a solution to a problem? Do they want advice? Do they want a way to invest that's going to make them money? What do they want? It depends on your topic and what your audience. You probably already know because you're probably already working with clients who are telling you what they want. So that's a big clue that helps you. What's stopping them from getting what they want? Are they in their own way? Is there something they don't understand? Is there a new way of doing something that you know how to do that you can teach them? You have to kind of work that through in your planning. And then best of all, how are you solving that problem so that they can get what they are looking for? You do that and they will love you forever. You'll have a person who loves you forever. And in fiction, again, genres, it's heavily genre specific. So if you're a fiction writer, you have to know who's reading that genre. Like science fiction nerds, if you're writing science fiction, you got to go for the nerds. If you're writing mystery, if you're writing romance, if you're writing it all is very genre specific. Okay. So any questions? Any questions on that or comments or no, we're good. You guys are awesome. Okay. So this is something I learned from Juliet. A pro tip, start talking to your audience via social media and in person while you're writing. And you say, I'm writing this book and it's about, and get that one liner, I'm writing, Don, I'm going to put you on the block again. I'm writing a book that's going to help women in menopause feel better. People are going to be, what? If they're your audience. And this is just a little peeve of mine. It is not upcoming book. It is forthcoming book. Say that right, you guys, because upcoming is like movies. Forthcoming is for books. So that's just my grammar teacher coming out. I apologize. Okay. Book killer number 2, cramming everything you know into a book. Please don't do that. It's overwhelming. It kills your book. Readers don't like it. They'll stop reading. They'll be like, why am I wading through all this? I don't want to read this. I want to know what I want to know and what page is it on. And it just will kill you. So it's better to write, it's better to split your book in, at the very least, split it into sections that are very clearly defined. Or you can write smaller books that are very clearly focused. People love that because they like to get to the point. They want to know what they can do right now. And they want to know you. They want to know. So don't be afraid to put your journey story in there. How you got to from where they are now, where they're struggling, to where you are now, where you know something that can help them. Don't be afraid to put that in there. People like that. It makes them connect with you on an emotional level. We like that. So we want to just give them what they want, and they read the book from cover to cover. And then they go, who is this person? And they look you up in your bio and find you on social media or at your website or something like that. This is a good thing. This is what we want. If it's fiction, there are very specific, which I'm not going to go into here. There are very specific ways to keep a plot moving. If it bogs down, bogging down is boring. It's going nowhere. You're just spinning. Don't do that. If you're doing that, then there are specific things you can do in fiction to prevent that. But I'm not going to go into that in this podcast today. All right. So for book killer number 3, industry jargon. So I'm going to go back to my teacher example. The industry jargon, every industry has a jargon. Every single one. Finance people have a jargon. Doctors have a jargon. Teachers have a jargon. And other people in your industry know the jargon, but lay people do not. So you must avoid jargon. It makes people feel dumb. If you make a reader feel dumb or like they can't understand what you're saying, you will lose them instantly. They will just drop your book and move on to the next person. So whatever industry you're in, if you are an industry professional, train the trainer kind of person, and you are writing, that's your audience, then don't worry about it. Just forget what I just said. But if you are working with lay people, you have to use real language, like human language, the way we talk to each other. So my teacher, she ended up picking parents as her audience. And the book she wrote was amazing because it was about helping parents recognize signs of dyslexia in their children early so they could get remediation early. And that it worked well because she spoke their language. She didn't talk down to them. She spoke to them directly. So never talk down to people. It doesn't work. And no matter who you're talking to, always simplify. Simplify, simplify, simplify. If you get really complicated, that is different than going deep. Going deep is an exploration of a topic with very real examples and solutions. But simplifying is about the languaging and the way you present it and the logical steps you take to present it so that it makes sense to the reader. It's clicking in as they're going through your book. You want that because then they're going to keep reading and they're going to think, oh, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. And that's what we want. The only exception for jargon is if you put a term in that they do need to know to understand what you're talking about. But you have to put it up front and define it up front. And I also recommend if you have to do that, it depends on your topic, but if you have to do that multiple times, I always recommend that you put a glossary of terms in the back of the book so they can refer back if the reader needs to. It helps them to know they can look in the back and go, what was that again? And they look and they go, oh yeah. And then they keep reading. Any questions, folks?
I'm just so glad you mentioned jargon because so many times I've been turned off by reading something. It seemed like the person wasn't conveying information to me. It was more of a conceited, oh, look at me, look at these words I can throw around. And it was an instant turn off. Whatever I could have gotten or received was out the window. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Absolutely. It's a real thing. I always tell my authors, writing the book is about you. The book itself is about your reader. You have to keep your focus on them. It's all about that. So that leads right into book killer number 4, which is failing to deliver on your big promise. Your big promise is your solution to the problem that your audience has. You must make sure you deliver. And if you are focusing on one small thing in your general area of expertise, deliver on that one small thing. It's better to do that than to generalize and go nowhere. It's much better. So if you give them something real that they can implement right now, that they can then see, oh, wow, that worked, they're going to come back to you. They just will. I mean, think about your own reaction. If someone is like, oh, blowing smoke, they're just an idiot. But if they go, here, you can do this, and then you try it and it works, they're going to come back to you. So, and it really depends on your I know Andy's a wellness person and he gives very specific things you can do right now that will change your health situation very quickly. So that's very practical and people like it. So if you are building a business, this is really, really good news because when you deliver, people find you and they tell everyone about you. Oh, I read this book and it changed my life. You have to read this book. They do it all the time. So you want to make sure you deliver. Failure to deliver, absolutely the number one kiss of death. Absolutely, because the reader is all about them. They're looking for something they need right now. They're not worried about you as a writer. They're worried about their solution. So you have to give it to them. Okay. So any questions about how to deliver that, you guys, or anything? Just think about it when you're planning your book. Keep in mind this is the number one thing. Keep that in mind. What transformation am I giving my readers in this chapter? What transformation then in the next chapter, how does that lead to the next chapter? Think of it that way because that's how you move them forward through their process. Okay. If you're writing fiction, you want to be careful about making up a language. This connects back to jargon. You don't really give them a transformation, but jargon. They do, especially sci-fi nerds. They do like to make made up languages like, Klingon, which is apparently a whole big thing. So if you're doing fiction, just make sure it's consistent so that a word doesn't mean something here and then it means something different here. Then they don't like that. Readers are savvy and they pick up on that. They pick up on those kinds of boo-boos. Okay, now we're going to get into sparkles. So one of my biggest advice to you guys is when you write your first draft, focus on your main information first. Get your main information in there, the stuff that you know, the stuff that you're teaching. It's easier to do that and then go back and add the sparkles. So what I call sparkles are the things that give your book flavor. Like they make it interesting. Like you can put in stories from your clients or other people in your profession. You can put in real life examples or personal journey tidbits. There are occasions where your personal journey is very significant. And if you put in a little tidbit about yourself, it adds flavor to the story. Mind-blowing facts are great in certain things. Like, how many of us have ever thought, wow, that person, started this thing and made $1 million in a year, and thought, how did they do that? And wanted to know more, or any kind of mind-blowing facts. Cool tips. Cool tips are great. Cool tips are things that you as the expert can give them as a tip that helps them focus in and move forward. It gives your book flavor, and you want to sprinkle those throughout the whole thing so that it gives them a space to connect with you as the author, especially if you're telling them some personal tidbits. But it adds depth and dimension to your message. It's like social proof that's not shoved down their throat. It's, oh, look, these clients all had this happen. That's a good thing. And the pause, readers, when you're teaching something, readers need a break from it from time to time, and they won't always put the book down. But if there's a story or an example, we've all seen them in books where there's a box and there's a real life history of something. You can pause and you can read that, and then you can think about it outside the scope of the content, and it gives you its breathing room, and it gives the reader something to mull over without just going, see, I'm proving my point to you. Because you don't want to do that. It's don't shove it down their throats. And then you never know. I've had the experience, and I'm sure you all have too. These are different from testimonials. I'm talking about their stories. Like, this client worked with me and this is what their journey was, or something like that, or this case study that I did. It makes you go, oh, wow, I see how they processed through that. And then that gives a lot of validity to you as an author. So that's nonfiction. Fiction are completely different. It's more don'ts than do's. If you're in fiction, don't go into a lot of backstory. And please do not use flashbacks unless you know what you're doing. Have you guys noticed how many flashbacks there are now? Everything is a flashback. It is terrible because they don't know what they're doing. They don't do it in a way that works. You have to do it in a way that works. And then you want to create characters with a limp and an eye patch, not a literal limp and an eye patch, but something that makes them very distinctive. Not all the characters, but the main character protagonist and the main villain antagonist. You want to make sure they're very memorable. Think about Captain Hook. How many of you guys see the pirate with the hook in your head? Yeah, memorable character.
Chris, can I add something there?
Sure.
So when I used to write fiction, we all have iPhones now. I used to actually go down to this outdoor mall in Calabasas, California. And if I saw something interesting, I would film it so I could go back later. If I saw somebody doing something that was unusual or sort of patterned that made that person interesting. And then I would write from the video, which is a little harder than it seems because, that show versus tell. But be a people watcher.
That is an excellent tip. And I've done that too, only I didn't film it. I just jotted down notes. But yeah, a mall is or an airport when you're sitting there waiting for a plane is a great resource for characters. And even plots, because sometimes you can see something going down and you're like, what's going on over there? And you can make up a story. But that's fiction. And also never solve a story problem by adding more characters. That just bogs the story down again. Okay, moving on to book killer. I'm trying to watch the time here for Juliet. Book killer number 5, our final one is failure to edit. Now, you guys are probably all like, well, you're an editor. Yes, I'm an editor for a reason. Because your friend who reads is not an editor unless they actually are an editor. Your friend who reads isn't going to know the really big stuff that it takes to make a book, especially a nonfiction book for your business, marketable, beyond publishable into marketable, and actually help you get there. So if you're really struggling, these are my tips. If you're really struggling to even get a first draft down, someone like me, I'm a developmental editor. We help you construct your book. We help you take your ideas, focus them in, and create a construction, create a framework where your book makes sense and works for you. So that is something that can really help you. And it will definitely help you avoid a lot of costly mistakes. Because everybody's had the experience of reading a really bad book and thinking, how did this get published? It's a real thing. You don't want that to be your book. If you do have a first draft and you're still like, well, now where do I go from here? You can use a developmental editor. You can use a different kind of editor that does that takes something that you already have. It's still development. That's what's called development, just for the names of things you might hear, you guys. But it's all about making your manuscript into a book that will help you actually make it benefit you. My big tip is if someone is just blowing smoke and saying, oh my God, your book is everybody's going to want to read your book. You're going to make millions. Don't work with them. They're just taking your money and they're not really doing anything for you. You want someone who's going to tell you honestly, this is working. This is not working. This is why it's not working. And this is how we can fix it. Because that is what moves you forward. And lose the ego, you guys, lose the ego. Your book, remember, is all about your reader.
You guys, as a publisher, I will tell you, and I complain to Chris about this all the time. When I get books from developers, there are these huge expectations that have been set that are not in alignment with the publishing business. And I spend a lot of time tempering those expectations so there's not a huge disappointment at the end. So she's absolutely right. If you get an editor that's telling you your book is the best thing since sliced bread, pull back and think about, did I test it with my audience? Am I building an audience around it? Is the audience telling me that? Because that audience should be built in advance. Don't listen to those expectations of the editor as much as you listen to the validity of what the audience is telling you.
Right. And the editor needs to be on that page with you. If the editor's not hearing that, pull back. Find someone who's hearing what you're saying and is understanding, what you're doing. It's really, honestly, it's money well spent if it's someone who'll really help you get there. And then my other thing is editing and proofing they're both called editing, but they're actually very different. Proofing is last. Proofing is the last step before it goes to the publisher. I never send a book to Juliet until I've sent it to my proofreader for proofing, working with an author, because I stopped seeing the boo-boos. And I'm an eagle eye, but I stopped seeing the boo-boos because I've done it too much. I've been in the book too much. So proofreaders are the ones that find all those last typos, the punctuation, the spelling, the doubled words, the missing words, silly things like that, the boo-boos that just kind of distract the reader. You don't want those. You want your book to be as good as it can possibly be. But a proofer has to be someone who's never seen the book manuscript before, because then they're fresh. Like, that's why I can't proofread a book I've developed, because I can't see the mistakes anymore, and neither can the author. So that's a pro tip for you guys. And that goes for fiction or nonfiction. Okay, guys. Last chance to play Ask the Editor. Any questions, comments?
I'd like to make a comment about the editor. So as a publisher, what Chris just said to you about looking at your book over and over, when you get into book formatting, this is not a one-shot deal. Your book is formatted and it's done, because that's where you need to go through and approve for the formatter that manuscript. And if you approve that manuscript and there are still mistakes and it goes to market, it's going to cost you when you come back and say, could you please correct it? We actually have someone who's in that right now, and it just cost her $1,600 to because we have to redo everything. So what I always suggest is, if you can hire an editor who will stay with you through formatting, what that does is that gives that formatted version a second look. Sometimes it's even a third look, because you're looking at it over and over. You're making sure that everything is correct. So if you engage an editor, I would suggest you ask, do you stay with me and do you look at the formatted versions? If they say no, you probably don't have the right editor, because a really committed editor will agree to that process and price accordingly.
Yes, that is true. I do that. That's one of my practices. I also help with back cover copy and titles. We like to play with titles, because a good title can really be a good hook for your book.
It seems like authors tend to go with titles that are too long. So that's another hint as well. Anybody else have questions?
Donna?
Always have questions. Do you ladies remember Dear Abby?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, she had a column, and I'm pretty sure she's had books. Do you think that would be a popular style type book, with sharing information that way, like being asked the question and giving the answer that way? Or would it get too outdated too quickly?
I think it would be outdated too quickly. Donna, the kind of book that I just heard you articulate, I think should have some short evaluations after the end of the chapter. So if you're healing that menopause, make them dig into it, not just read it, but dig into it. What's really going on with me? So I would work with a few questions at the end of the chapter where they actually had to write down, like, what are your symptoms? How are you feeling? What is going on with this? And someone on the call like Andy Nam could probably help you with that, because he's a naturopath. He helps people, with different stages and health in their lives. So he may have a little bit of insight on what kind of questions you should ask. Is that okay, Andy, that I said that?
He's a functional nutritionist, though.
Yeah, he's a functional
Yeah.
nutritionist, but nutrition's a big part of menopause.
Absolutely. And that is a brilliant example of a sparkle. Those kinds of things, questions like that, where the reader digs into what they're going through at the end of the chapters and really has a space to go through that. That's a sparkle that can't be beat. They love it. They love that. So that's a really good, that's a great recommendation. Juliet knows what she's talking about. So if you guys ever want advice, talk to Juliet. She knows this stuff inside and out. All right. So that's all I have, guys. I am going to invite you. I'm doing a couple of writing, I'm calling them play shops, because I believe in play, not work. And I have one fiction and one nonfiction coming up in August. They're at Barefoot Writers Club if you want to join. And I have a special promotion. If you put in the code Juliet at checkout, you'll get, it's a little bit over 50% off as my gift for listening today. And I'd love to have you join me. All right. And I'll have more coming up every month as well. So if you haven't heard this podcast until October, just go to the website. It'll be there.
Oh, that's great, Kristy. So she gave me an excellent opportunity. I hadn't planned on doing this, but I will. We have a new product that we developed with two fantastic AI programmers that is called the Superbrand Audience Accelerator. And before you write that book, love to have you answer these 8 questions and have a marketing plan for it, because you're going to have to build that platform. And for the people on the call today, it's $4.97. Andy Namro did it in testing. What did you think, Andy? Did you get some useful information from it?
Yeah, actually, both me and Minna did it, and a lot of useful information. I'm gonna set up a time with you to follow up on mine, like you did with Minna's. But Minna's took in a lot of the tips, and it helped her. It almost helped her build like a mind map of what needs to be done to market her product. So no, thank you so much for that. So
Yeah.
you guys should check it out. It was actually really cool.
Yeah. So if you reach out to me, we're in test mode, but we've accelerated that. If you reach out to me, Juliet at superbrandpublishing.com, that the report is $497, but I'm going to tell you guys, it is amazing. It tells you the content, where your audience is, what you should produce for them. And it gives you every phase of marketing from nobody knows you're alive all the way up to everybody knows who you are and how you should proceed in every phase. Because one thing writers do is they don't build their platform. They don't have an audience. They go right into, everybody should know who I am and everybody needs this information. But this creates, like for someone like Donna, really targeted, what do I put out there to test my book? What is the content that I put out there? So if you guys reach out to me, I'll get you the questions, get you an invoice, get you the questions, and you get a session so I can go over it with you and explain how you use that report. And I got to tell you, it's been super valuable. We've done it for, in testing, we probably did it for 60 people. Kristy is getting hers together for the test now too. So it really is a game changer for authors where your content starts. Sorry to make a plug like that, but she opened the door for it. And we just got we actually were so confident after our test results that we took it off of AI and made it into a SaaS program, SaaS. And we're probably actually going to find investors for it as well and go bigger with it because we can create bigger content with it as well. So, Kristy, thank you. Andy, thank you. I do want to mention, you guys, now that you're in my list, all of you, we have 2 more events this month. We always have free author events. If I know a couple people on this call are new to me, we have an event on Wednesday, July 23rd, Alignment, the missing link between your message, your book, and your marketing. Amber Burdett is going to be hosting that. And that is really helpful. And I don't have where you can sign up for that. Big boo-boo on my part. So if you're interested in it, reach out to me at that same address I gave you, and we'll get that for you. Also, we have our Go High Level monthly. I know Dorothy uses it, and I think Kristy's starting to use it as well. It's a game changer for authors. It's an all-in-one. Everything's connected. You don't have 5 different platforms that you're trying to serve up your author platform from. And this month is building effective and efficient funnels. And you can register for that at ghltraining.com. Again, it's a free training. It's next Thursday. And lastly, next month's training, where you can sign up at bamagtraining.com, is Search is Changing Again, How to Stay Visible. Google's making a lot of changes on how you do SEO again, and Iris Goldfeder is amazing at all this. So that is actually on August 1st, same bat time, same bat channel. Should I say that? Is that a copyright infringement? No. So
It's in the public domain by now.
Yeah, it should be in the public domain. I don't know we've had so many Batmans. Who could say? So, any guys have any questions about any of those events? Real quick, just sign up, show up. Of course, Donna does.
Good.
I can tell I'm going to love her.
On the 23rd, do you have a time for that?
Yes, ours are always at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Oh, and I lied. That one's actually at 11 a.m. MST. I forgot. The person, Amber, is a newer mother, so we have it a little bit later, with the understanding that she probably never sleeps. On that. Yeah. So it'd be if you're in New Jersey, it's 1 p.m. Eastern. Okay. And since you know,
Go High Level? Oh, sorry.
The Go High Level is at 9 a.m. on that's Mountain Time. So 11 Eastern Time on July 17th. And we have that monthly. So if you're a Go High Level user or interested in using, it's a really great training.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, you guys, thank you so much. And again, reach out to me, shoot me an email if you want to get that report, that analyzer report, audience analyzer report. It is super helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you. We'll see you
Thank you,
guys.
Juliet.